criminal mafia. But it's a mafia that hired a bunch of scientists to create a scientific control grid. Look at this news. This is out of the Daily Mail today. Notice that 10 years ago, you never heard people talking about eugenics. Now you see it in the news almost every day. We're forcing it out there. And as people begin to get knowledge of it, they discover the entire system is based on it. Yale University's plan to create an intellectually superior race of children to depopulate and repopulate Britain after World War II. Yale University only offered children of Oxford and Cambridge University staff an evacuation of the U.S. during nuclear war with Russia. One evacuee had raised questions about the experience, asking, did they want to save the gene pool? Yale's president, James Angel, was a, quote, fanatic eugenicist in the worst meaning of the word. And again, every major university that we've looked into randomly, the biology department head, the psychology department heads, they are always, I've randomly checked universities, Yale, Harvard, UT, they're always writing papers about reducing population and eugenics. And again, my dad, top of his class, already at UT in high school, part of a summer program. They test 160 of the smartest kids in Texas, take the top 6, bring them into a room and tell them, you know, basically, you're going to be part of the future elite. We're establishing a eugenics world government. Hitler was bad because he only wanted to go after certain groups. We're going after everybody. And my dad was like, no, thank you. He was called in by the head of the botany department. And he was nothing special. This is standard. And most people get called in or told, you're the elite, you're the best, you're going to be part of this. They're like, oh, yes. And boom. That happened to Bill Gates. It happened to all these people. That's why Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, George Soros meet at Rockefeller University, according to ABC News, to discuss global government and how they reduce population. And then I covered it on the Sunday show. Me and Aaron were talking about it, how the British royalty won't take vaccines, eat only organic, and have organic food flown around the world with them. How the German government only eats organic and won't take vaccines. All in the news, but just hidden here and there. How the Chinese government has secret gardens and tries to keep it secret that they eat only filtered non-fluoride water and don't take vaccines and eat only organic because they know it's designed to sterilize them. I mean, this is all in the news. We're just aware of it and pull together like 10 mainstream articles and show you where it's admitted. So you got Bill Gates openly saying he loves you, please take a shot because he cares about you, but then in a speech to a bunch of technocrats laughing and saying we got to give the population shots so we get the human population down, and everyone starts laughing and clapping, and it cuts to all the chicken neck trendies who were all top of their class too, clapping, getting off on the power. Dr. Pianka, Texas Academy of Sciences, projects red skulls on the wall. This was in major Texas papers 5 years ago. It's in my film Endgame. Remember this. And says he said his family's going to have to die, but world government's what's needed, and we've got to have at least 90% die. And a standing ovation with people crying. All the top scientists in Texas, they're at the meeting crying. Papers reporting in rapture as he says, prepare to kill 90%. Oh, yes, oh, crying. Oh, I'm such a control freak. I've got such power. I hate everybody. No, they told me when I was in high school I was the smartest. We're part of this little sick mutual worship society. And Pianka's like, I know my family will have to die too. I'm sad, but it has to be. It's going to happen soon. We're all going to die. It's beautiful. I mean, this is the type of wild craziness that you and I and all of us are facing. And you can go look up everything I'm saying. These people are beyond nuts. And it goes on to say that Yale, of course, working for the U.S. government, was obsessed with the genetic bloodlines of the British upper class. So was Hitler. He believed the British were even more Aryan than the Germans because the Germans have been overrun by other groups. And so that's why Hitler at first wouldn't bomb cities. He'd only bomb bases. So the Brits, in a psychological warfare op that's been declassified, did a midnight raid early on into Berlin, bombing city. So Hitler would throw a fit, their psychological warfare chiefs properly predicted, to then start bombing the population instead of military bases. Because if you'd have kept bombing the bases, he would have won. Side issue, though. I'm going to tell you about mobile sterilization vans coming up.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
All right, I've already covered some news. I want to get into the body of the news now as quickly as possible and then go to your phone calls ahead of Ed Asner, former head of the Screen Actors Guild, and, of course, award-winning actor in his own right, joining us to talk about interesting film he's working on concerning 9/11 truth. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. I'll get into 1984, not the book, the year 1984. World Bank report contemplates sterilization vans and camps. You see, once you've been bankrupted, once they've destroyed the economy and they can say you're not self-sufficient, they're going to deem you to not be able to take care of yourself, and they're going to sterilize you and take your children. This is already beginning. Oh, you want to go to university? You must take the meningitis shot, which has been linked to deaths and doesn't even protect you. There was only 20-something cases in the state of Texas last year. But Rick Perry says it's the law. You've got to take it to get into university, and then he blocks people entering the university. Kind of like he lied and said it was the law to take the Gardasil shot, and that couldn't hold up in court. What a slimy criminal. And all their blood's on your hands, Perry, you little nobody. I know you're blackmailed, but you're just a piece of trash. All right, before I get back into that, I want to tell you about a new book we're carrying. Weldon bought this at the bookstore and read it and said it was really good. And I know that I'd read one of his other fiction books, but it paralleled reality, even had some Patriot leaders in it, like Mark Kornke, when he wrote an earlier book. But now it's a New York Times bestseller, and we're going to get him on later in the week, and we have it at Infowars.com. It's good to give friends and family concerning the type of collapse that could happen, and it's titled Survivors, a Novel on the Coming Collapse. John Wesley Rawls, just an amazing patriot writer. In an America that has succumbed to complete financial governmental collapse, a handful of determined survivors must make their way to safety. The globalists plan a controlled collapse and allowing some anarchy, so we then beg for the military on the streets. But point is, you can get these books at Infowars.com. We also have it in stock, but we're almost sold out. We're going to have to reprint Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. It had been basically out of print. It was selling for $300 a piece. Well, we made sure it got back into print and helped the fellow that owns the publishing rights, the author, print a bunch. And it's going a lot quicker than I thought it would, and your purchase supports Fritz and also our operation, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, available at Infowars.com. And speaking of Infowars Nightly News, we're still running that 15-day free trial to get all my films in super high quality, expanded extras, 9 years of material. It'll be in April. The Nightly News, the expanded commercial-free video and audio podcast. It's all there and so much more. PrisonPlanet.tv. And you win, because when you become a member, it funds our operation. And we let folks with their username and passcode, whatever you choose, have 6 people logged in at one time with the same username and passcode. So you basically get 6 memberships, 15 cents a day, for the price of 1. And we're running in the month of February a friendship special. Love, friendship, all the same thing. Give the gift of truth. We've got a huge discount on the yearly membership there right now as well, and we will end that special when this month ends. We kind of extended the January special into February. So give the gift of truth in February. PrisonPlanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com is the URL as well. It'll get you right there to the site. Okay, so the Daily Mail is reporting that British children during World War II, and then afterwards, when there was a threat of nuclear war, were offered to come to the United States, but only if they were of a superior genetic bloodline. And it goes on to say the eugenics movement at Yale University may have extended the invitation because they plan to repopulate a devastated Britain with a race of intellectually superior children. And, of course, that's what they were doing. It goes on to say, was Yale hoping to save the offspring of the British academic elite, protecting those 125 children because it saw them as future leadership class, especially deserving of preservation, as Jonathan Freeland in the Sunday Telegraph? As the threat of the invasion loomed and the terror of the Nazi bombs continued, Yale University sent a letter to both Oxford and Cambridge universities offering children of their fellows and others evacuation refuge in the U.S., calling itself the Yale Community Receiving Oxford and Cambridge University Children. 125 Oxford children and 35 mothers took up the offer, boarding the SS Antonia from Liverpool to New Haven, Connecticut in 1940. And it goes on to break down the head of the university was a top eugenicist. And that was basically why they were doing it. Well, absolutely. Look, when my dad was called in because he was, one of the highest test scores in Texas to the University of Texas as a junior at the time in high school, and after they'd done the testing and called him aside, they said, look, we need you to be part of the future elite. Hitler was bad because he only wanted to kill certain groups. We need to carry out a global government for eugenics, basically to save humanity. And my dad said to the head of the botany department, well, you're Jewish. Well, I mean, eugenics, and they're like, Hitler bad, but eugenics good. So you have to understand, this is across the board. This is what the elites see, whether they're Chinese, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Russian, whether they're Mexican. I mean, the eugenics movement was huge in Mexico up until the 1940s. And this is what's happening. And this is what your whole world is based on. And the disgust for humanity. And instead of trying to lift up humanity, these people have just written everyone off and try to create a self-fulfilling prophecy where they just try to dumb down the population so they can be more orderly, controlled, and herded and conditioned towards more expansive exterminations in the future. And that's how they could get U.S. scientists to inject poor white people, black people, with radiation, radioactive particles, radiate foster children to death who were deformed or even had mild retardation, inject black men with syphilis over 45 years and keep it secret and watch them spread it in the black population, release bioweapons in 1968 in the New York subway. All of this has been declassified. And people are like, oh, the government wouldn't kill us on 9/11 or fund groups and let them attack. No, they just took 4,000 plus U.S. foster children in the 1940s alone and put them in chambers and radiated them to death. And I called Paul Watson about this morning. I said, have you seen this Daily Mail and Sunday Times article that originally broke it about the eugenicist and wanting to save the supreme genetics of the British elite of academia? Because that's what Wedgwood, Huxley, Darwin, Galton, all of them intermarried to try to create the supermen. That's what Huxley was. He wrote a book about it in 1932, 1933, Brave New World, and later in the 60s said, this is the real world we're trying to set up. This is not fiction. This is what we want to build. You can go listen to his Berkeley speech. When he knew he was dying, he went ahead and spilt the beans. But he said, even though I'm telling you this, you probably won't be able to stop us, and began laughing at them. It was not Huxley having a heart and warning people. At that very time, his brother ran UNESCO and Agenda 21 UN system at the United Nations. Julian Huxley, Aldous Huxley's brother. So my point here is that this is the global government. This is what they're establishing. This is the system they're setting up. Okay. Now, here's a new one at Infowars.com by a great writer who does just amazing digging on the site. 1984 World Bank report contemplates sterilization vans in camps. Fittingly, it's the year 1984. And it says sterilization vans in camps to facilitate the sterilization policies of the third world. And this was carried out in Peru and other areas. The report also threatens nations who are slow in implementing the bank's population policies with drastic steps, less compatible with individual choice and freedom. And there's another report out of tens of thousands per year in Latin America dying And they say it's a mystery illness why their kidneys are failing.